Everyone, my name is Mal and I'm a support engineer at Vizion. I'm going to be walking you through how to connect Vizion's container tracking API to AppSheet. So we will be using Vizion's no-code Google Sheets solution as the data that powers the app we create today. And if you aren't familiar with the no-code workbook solution, we have a video walkthrough of that will be linked in the description. Sheet is a no-code platform developed by Google that allows users to create mobile and web apps without doing any sort of extensive coding. So to get started, we will log into AppSheet and click to add a new project. Choose App. Start with existing data since we want to use our no-code workbook as our data source. And we can just keep it simple and name this Vizion Demo. Category, I'll just select Other. And then we want to choose our data. So we'll go to our Google Sheets. I chose my no-code workbook from the list of all of the different Google Sheets documents that I have. And that is right here, my source ID. This should be the name of your no-code workbook. And then I want to select my containers tab to use as the data source. So for now, we will keep all of these the same and go ahead and click Add this table. So right now, AppSheet is working to display all of our data. So here we can see all of these different properties match what is in our no-code workbook containers tab. And you can see that AppSheet has already generated a pretty basic looking app for us. So as you can see, we can click on these individual containers and we get more information here. All of these different fields exist in our no-code workbook as columns, and we can see them displayed once we click on the container to view more details. So there are definitely fields for the purposes of this app that we do not need. So for instance, unsubscribe or data received. So in this case, we can create something that AppSheet calls a slice to only grab specific fields from a data source to use in a given view. So I can go to our container source, click Add a Slice, choose Create a New Slice, and I'm just going to call this Details. This will be our container details data. And I'll just go ahead and remove data received, remove unsubscribe. Keep everything else the same and click save. Then I can go back to my containers view. And instead of containers here as the source, I'll choose details. And I can see if I click in to view the details, those extra fields are not there. So everything looks good. So in AppSheet, we have the ability to edit what is displayed here for each container. So instead of having the last update status be the most prominent item or property rather, I'd like to change this to container ID. So it's currently showing container ID and carrier code. I'll show the carrier code in the details page and want to change this to event name. So for now, a lot of these will be blank, but essentially we're pulling in any milestone that contains a destination string. So we can very easily see which of these containers has a planned event for the destination arrival. So another great thing we can do here is choose to group by a particular property. So I am going to choose to group by ETA. And I'll choose descending. A lot of these will be blank as they don't have a milestone planned yet that includes the destination string. So I'll choose descending And then I also want to select this group aggregate count option. So this is great. So if I have more than one container that has the same ETA, it would show in the same group. And I can very easily see the ETA, the container, and the event that the ETA is associated with. One quick thing we want to do, if you look here at each container, you can see we have a delete option, we have an edit option. So we are just going to go ahead and clean this up a bit and remove the edit option, as this is data that is coming from Vizion. So let's go to actions, and then you'll see we have add, delete, edit. Under edit, just go ahead and change do not display here to remove that action. Okay, so now we have our main list of our containers looking pretty good. We can go in and click on each container to see more information. Now we want to add the ability for users to subscribe to new containers within the app. So for this form, again, we are going to want to create a new slice of data. We only want input options to be container ID, carrier code, and bill of lading. So let's go again to our containers data source. We can click to add a new slice. We will call this containers form. Actually, we can just keep it form since it's already nested in the containers data. And then from here, we just need to remove everything that is not one of our input options. Okay, great. So we have container ID, carrier code, and bill of lading. We can go ahead and save that slice. So now that we have the form slice, we can go ahead and add the corresponding view for the form. So under primary navigation, I'll just click create a new view. I'm going to call this add a container. For this data, I'll select the form data, and the view type is form. And awesome, this looks good. These are the 3 input types that I was looking for. So container ID, carrier code, and bill of lading. Okay, this is great. We have everything looking good, but we need to actually make this work by communicating with Vizion to subscribe and unsubscribe to containers. So let's focus on the subscribing part first. When a user enters in a container ID and carrier code, or a bill of lading and carrier code, we want the form submission to trigger a request to Vizion to start subscribing to that container. So to do this, we can use what AppSheet calls automations. So let's go to automation in the sidebar, and we can click to create our first automation. So it offers some suggestions here. I'm just going to type in container created. So there's an option when a new container record is created, send an SMS. So let's just start with that. That's not what we're doing, but it'll just kind of provide a template for us. So we want this, a new container is created. And this is the part that we are going to customize to send a request to Vizion. So right now this is set to send an SMS. We want to call a webhook. So we'll choose this HTTP call a webhook option. And next, let's go through each of these fields. So to make this a bit more simple, I went ahead and filled out these options, and you can go ahead and pause the video and enter them in on your end. So for the URL, we want to choose the Vizion base URL. So that's prod.vizionapi.com/references. The HTTP verb should be post. We want to send data along with our requests. The content type should be JSON. We'll skip this body portion for a moment. We'll cover that next, how to upload a template that conveys what data should be included in the body of the request. For the HTTP header, this is where we pass in the API key, so your Vizion API key. So this will just be X API key : and then your API key string. So let's go over this body template. So AppSheet lets you create a JSON document that specifies what the body of the post request should look like. And this is the syntax that AppSheet requires for including data that comes from the form. So you'll want your body template to look very similar to this one. The only thing that you'll need to adjust is this callback URL, which is the URL that points to your no-code workbook. And if you aren't sure where to find this URL, we'll walk through this in one moment. Okay, so this is my no-code workbook. To find that callback URL, I'll go to Extensions, App Script. In the view of the script that powers the no-code workbook, you can go to Deploy, Manage Deployments, and under Web App is the URL that you want to use as the callback URL in the body template JSON document. So now that we have the automation set up to take our input and send it to Vizion, we can try this out. We can go to Add a Container, enter in the container ID and carrier code, and click Save. AppSheet allows you to see each run of your automation. So I can see here the form that I just submitted, the correct data was passed here, the container ID and the carrier code, and it looks like it ran successfully. So our last step here will be to add an unsubscribe automation. So whenever we delete a container in the app, we want it to unsubscribe the container from Vizion's tracking. So let's go back to automations and we can click to add a new automation. And this time we will type in when a container is deleted. This has send an email, so this is fine for us to start with. And then instead of send an email, again, we are going to choose call a webhook. And we'll walk through how to set up each of these fields. Okay, let's go through each of these properties. So for the URL, this is going to be the same base URL we used previously to subscribe to containers. So it's prod.visionapi.com/references. And then the syntax here, again, is going to pull from the data that is in the app for this reference. So this is the reference ID. And again, you'll use this same syntax that we used in the body template JSON. And we'll change the HTTP verb to delete, and the content type should be set to JSON. And that's it. This one is fairly simple as we're passing the reference ID in the URL itself. So we can go ahead and test out that delete automation. We can just click to delete one of our containers. Let's go to automation and monitor. And here we can see that same container was deleted and all of the correct information was passed along. There are many ways you can customize an app like this using Vizion and AppSheet further to fit your use case. Hopefully this video gave you a good starting point. If you have any questions about Vizion or this demo in particular, please feel free to reach out to support@vizionapi.com and we would be happy to help. Thanks.